Well, I'm Gary Loomis. I've been fishing since I was 4 or 5. There wasn't a fish safe within 5 miles of my house, because if I couldn't walk there, I could ride my bicycle there. And they was mine, so I had to go catch them. And so I've been that way my whole life. And so after I graduated out of high school, I went in the Navy. I was a machinist, a repairman in the Navy. I got out and went to work at a machine shop that we built edgers, barkers, resaws, and head rigs for lumber mills. So I did that for 10 years. And on the side, I was building some little equipment for a company that was in town that was making fishing rods for Zebco. And they were very short 2-piece rods, and it was, very, very small, but they was doing $50,000 a year. So I built some machinery to update them. And during that time, the owner of Lima Glass, Rural Soul, passed away. And so they kept trying to get me to go to work for Lima Glass because there was nobody that was really running it, and it was in Seattle. So one day I took a day off and we went up there and I looked, and to me it was a sleeping giant. And so it was just a few days later, I give them my time at the machine shop and I went to work for Lima Glass. And so the first year I was in kind of a learning curve, learning how to design some fiberglass rods, because in those days it was all fiberglass, there was no graphite. And so the second year, we went to the AFMA show. Well, at the AFMA show, Fenwick had a booth, and in the Fenwick booth they had a deal like this. It said, graphite rods of the future, and they had 3 rods laying horizontal. I picked the rods up and I shook them, and I just about passed out, because weight is a deterrent to performance. That's all there is. It's all there is to it. And when I picked them up and shook them, they weighed about 1/3 the weight of a fiberglass rod. So when I got back home, I got with the owners of Lima Glass and said, we got to get into graphite. They said, what's graphite? I said, I don't know. But I do know if we don't get into graphite, 2 years we're going to be out of business. So they decided, no, it was the first year they'd made any money, the first year I went to work for them, and they wasn't going to squander it on something that nobody knew anything about. So I went to the library, nothing in the library because graphite was too new. So I figured the only company that would know anything may be Boeing's. So I didn't know anybody at Boeing's, but Kent is close to Seattle, close to Boeing's. So I went down, I stood in the employee line, asking everybody that came through, do you know anything about graphite? Do you know anything about? Well, the second day I was there, guy said, wasn't you here yesterday? And I said, yeah, I was here yesterday, I'll be here tomorrow. Somebody in this outfit knows about graphite. He says, go over to gate C, that's where the engineers come out. Gate C. 4th person out I met was Harry Matheson, one of 5 composite engineers in the whole world at that time. There's probably 100,000 of them now, but at that time there was only 5. I took him to dinner, I picked him up for breakfast, I took him to lunch, I took him to dinner, and until he would say he would help me design graphite. So we kind of got a little office, and so I'd work up until 5 o'clock at Lima Glass making fiberglass rods. Then from about 5 o'clock till midnight, I'd be at the office and we'd be designing graphite. That following year, we was in AFMA show, and we really stole the show. Fenwick had 100% breakage the first year because they didn't know how to design graphite. And seeing graphite was 6 times as stiff as glass, they used 1/6 the material. That's why they were so light. But using 1/6 of the material, graphite was only half as strong as glass. When you reduce it 6 times, you reduce the strength by 12. So we kind of stole the graphite market and we went on. I kept having problems with the owners. They never wanted to continue to grow into new and better things. So I was there 5 years and I left and wanted to kind of do the things on my own, but on my own I didn't have the money. So I got 2 investors and 2 other workers, and it was 5 of us, and we started Loomis Composites.